What is going on, world? Steve Dab back with another exciting episode. But before we get started, today's show sponsor. This show has been brought to you by Mo Better Boxing, based out of Texas. Actually, no, this really isn't a sponsored ad. This is actually a company of my cousin who's been a huge inspiration in my life. If you watch some of my other videos, you'll hear me kind of talking about that in great detail. But what I really do want to share before we get started in about how I'm going to be utilizing these Bandit signs, how I created them, and everything else as relates to mobile home investing, I want to help you to understand my why. Because when this all said and done with, if you don't understand a man's why, you really don't understand why he's doing the things that he does. Hey, Jay, baby, kick one of them funky beats. Ouch. You hit me in my eye. Ouch. Yeah.
Yay!
Hey. Hey. All right, so again, welcome back. This is episode number 6 in terms of this playlist, or week number 6 of this mobile home investment journey. And the main topic of discussion is going to be Bandit signs. One thing I want to tell you is that I got the idea that I wanted to have a Bandit sign that said "We buy mobile homes" as opposed to "We buy houses." So a couple of things I did. One, I decided I'm going to create my own Bandit signs, which is why I have this. Actually, that's not really my Bandit sign that I use, but my point is, make certain that when you make your Bandit signs, if you're going to go the custom route, make sure you get it right the first time so you're not wasting money and repeating yourself. So let's talk about the design of these custom Bandit signs. As you know, if you watched my previous video, they initially sent me a box of Bandit signs that were cut on the wrong edge. So basically, I couldn't put the metal stakes in the bottom of them. I had to put it on the short edge, which would make the sign stand vertical as opposed to the long edge, so it can be horizontal. So we couldn't work out an agreement, so I ended up sending those back. I got the new Bandit signs in. They are the correct signs that I needed. So I said to myself, I want to make signs that say "We buy mobile homes" and then include my phone number at the bottom, but I wanted them to be very specific and look nice and clean. So what I decided to do was come up with a stencil. I started off by drawing lines on one of the Bandit signs, and I use these lines as a reference point so that I can continue to build the Bandit sign and make the letters and not have them sliding off the edge of the sign. So the first approach I took was trying to sketch the letters. While attempting to sketch those letters, what I found was that some were too wide, the spacing was a bit off, so I realized, that's not the best approach. So I got an even better idea. I decided that I'm going to print off a template. So what I ended up doing was opening up Microsoft Word, and within Word, I chose the stencil font, and then I kind of blew the letters up to the size that I needed them to be, or that I wanted them to be, on like an 18 by 24 sheet. What I was able to do then is take that Word document and save it as a PDF. Now, when you open documents in Adobe or the Acrobat Reader, PDF Reader, whatever it's called, you have the options of, when you print it, you have an options of a poster when you print it. If you print it as a poster, it'll print it across multiple sheets. So what ended up happening, I ended up with what I wanted printed out on 6 different sheets, and I combined those sheets. I taped them together so they wouldn't move around on me, and I laid them on top of one of the Bandit signs. The next step in this process was taking an X-Acto knife and outlining those letters. I won't say that this process took extremely long, but it definitely was time consuming. But in my mind, I realized that as long as I make a stencil or a template Bandit sign, I can pretty much use this again and again and again. So here's kind of the process of me making that template. At some point, I realized that although it's keeping the letters nice and crisp, I didn't want to take the time to try to cut out each individual number as well, which is why you don't see the numbers done on these templates. So my method of approach, I said, you know what? I want to utilize spray paint. It's inexpensive. It's easy. Went out into my garage, laid out some Bandit signs, and I ultimately got busy. One interesting thing that I noticed is that once I began spraying, initially it looked really good, but once I lifted up the template, I could see there was a lot of overspray. So I actually tried a couple of different approaches, a couple of different heights and angles and things like that, trying to clear that up. I got it better, but it wasn't great. If you are going to go this route, make certain that you use, well, I would suggest using a high gloss spray paint. Reason being, it just looks better when it dries, gives it a bit more of a professional look and or pop to it. So what I ended up doing for the numbers, we're picking up one of these Sharpie Magnum permanent markers. Very wide tip. These are absolutely perfect for Bandit signs. Once I got to writing in the numbers, I realized something of great significance. While spray painting the Bandit signs was nice because I could, in my garage, I laid out, I think 10 or 12 at a time, and I could just go from one to the next. But what happened was in between each sign and in between turning them over to spray the other side, for the ones that are staked into the ground, I had to wait for them to dry. So once you combine the time it took me making the stencil, as well as the time it took waiting to dry, and then the time flipping them on both sides and writing in the number manually, I realized that maybe I didn't take the absolute best or most efficient approach with making custom Bandit signs. By the way, the number that I use on Bandit signs, and I would highly encourage you to do if you don't know this already, utilize an alternate number. Don't use your actual company phone number, your cell phone number. I use Google Voice, so I have a Google Voice number that I put on all the signs. Bandit signs are a gray area in some places. They're illegal in other places. You know, I absolutely do not suggest that you do anything that is illegal, anything that's against the law. Do not. There's my advice. Do not do anything breaking the law. But here I am in Indiana putting up Bandit signs, so you take that for what it's worth. So as I was coming to a close, what I realized is that I can actually just use this Sharpie Magnum permanent marker and write out the entire signs. And the reality is they don't look horrible. So when I had to think about it in a grand scheme of things, I had to ask myself, who is my target audience? Am I looking for, am I trying to reach out to companies who are looking for a very well-designed, professional-looking sign? Is that what's most important? Or is my target audience going to be individuals who have an issue and they just need visibility? They need access to the information. They need to know exactly what I do. We buy mobile homes. They need to know how to get in touch with me. There's a Google Voice number attached to the sign and they can call. So, you know, I realized that per the amount of time I spent trying to make a custom Bandit sign, it just wasn't worth it. There's websites where you can specifically order We Buy Mobile Home signs. I couldn't find any when I was looking. I thought that going this route with blank signs would be less expensive, but what I realized was once you factor in the value of my time and how much time I used towards this process, it ended up ultimately being a waste or not efficient at all. So if you want to have a sign that's extremely custom and you want to utilize a stencil, there's a couple different ways I realized after the fact that you can do it. One, there are metal stencils that you can order custom for an 18 by 24 inch stencil. I want to say you're looking at about $35 right in that ballpark, at least the website I visited. The other thing is you can get a roll-on kit from like Uline or something like that where basically instead of using spray paint and having to deal with the overspray and having to do with the odor and things like that, you can basically get a kit where you essentially just roll on over the stencil and you get a lot better results. That is something that I'm considering doing, but again, it kind of goes back to the last point I made about, is that really necessary? So what I'm going to have to do is try these handwritten signs. Obviously, people have been using them for years, so they're getting some type of results, right? And I'll see what type of feedback I get, and maybe at a later date, I may try comparing using two different numbers and just kind of trying to guesstimate or gauge how much response I get from either. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it's really about helping solve problems. There's individuals who have a problem. They see these bright signs, which I have hung about 12 feet up in the air, especially the ones I put on light pole. You know, I'm 5'8", and between my arm's reach and then my, oh, actually, here's an image of it. between my arm's length and then the Bandit sign stamper. That video's on YouTube. Excellent video. Works like a charm. I pretty much hung signs at about 12 feet up, which makes it more difficult for competitors to take them down, and it also makes your sign stands out more. So I am looking forward to next week's episode so I can let you know the results of putting up these Bandit signs. In the meanwhile, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you for watching my journey, and as you see the mistakes that I made, I would recommend learning from those and not making the same mistakes. But if you're one of those person who like kind of creating your own path, then go for it. But just keep in mind that learning will always occur at the expense of one or two things, either time or money. You're going to either sacrifice time or you're going to sacrifice money if you want to learn. Thanks for watching. Steve Dab, signing out.